Hi, I'm Charlie Halfin, and I truly believe that you can drive your entire life and never have an auto accident. I recently retired from UPS after almost 29 years. I was Fleet Safety Manager, in charge of accident investigation and auto accident prevention worldwide. I've worked several years with the state of Georgia on their Driver Education Commission, dealing with teen drivers and the learning issues they face. Now I devote my time to eliminating auto accidents because to me, it's not rocket science. I believe that all auto accidents can be prevented by just one of the drivers involved, and that's you. It should be your goal to never be in an auto accident because it doesn't matter who's at fault if your best friend is killed when his chest is crushed in an intersection accident where you had the green light, or when your sister's legs are shattered when you run into the car in front of you because they stopped unexpectedly as you changed the radio station, or when your own scalp is ripped from front to back exposing your skull because you weren't wearing your seatbelt. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. You have to live with the physical and mental damage. In all likelihood, driving will be the most dangerous thing you do in your entire life. Your one moment of distraction may cause the death of several people. It's up to you. You're the driver. To get started, I'd like to introduce two young drivers, Tam and Al, to help explain how you can avoid auto accidents.
Driving is a lifelong skill, and the only training you receive is for a short period of time when you're around 16 years old. The actual driving skills involved with recognizing a hazard and knowing what to do about it can only be taught with on-road experience, and that takes time. Experienced drivers know that children will step out between parked cars, distracted drivers are erratic, impatient drivers will pull out in front of you without warning, and that some drivers do not even stop at red lights.
A 2008 National Highway Transportation Safety Administration report to Congress on teen driver crashes states, younger drivers are not experienced in hazard recognition. They do not generally acknowledge inherently dangerous situations on the road and therefore do not react appropriately. The goal of hazard recognition driving is to teach experience, real behind-the-wheel experience that may take you a lifetime to get. You need to learn those dangerous situations that you'll face on the road and how to avoid them before you actually face them in real life.
There are several things that every driver should know about accidents, no matter the driver's age. First, distractions are the major cause of all accidents. Driving requires your undivided attention from start to finish. If you just pay attention and look for hazards while driving, you cut your chance of having an accident in half.
Second, the most common accidents are backing and hitting stationary objects. Learn how to handle your vehicle. Pay attention even when you're doing the simplest maneuver, such as parking. The same is true with backing. No one feels comfortable moving backwards, but it's a big part of driving and it can be dangerous. Learn to use your mirrors. Practice backing until you have the confidence to do it safely.
Third and most important, you need to know that the most serious injury-producing collisions are intersection accidents, head-on accidents, hitting another vehicle in the rear, pedestrians, and cyclists. While any accident can be deadly, these accidents cause the most serious injuries.
Most teenagers think that driving is easy and that they are good drivers. The truth is, teenagers have 4 times as many accidents per mile driven as adults. Driving is a physical and mental skill, like baseball, basketball, or even playing the violin. We're not very good the first time we try it, even though we may think we are. But over time, through our own experiences, we become better. Striking out, missing a free throw, or playing the wrong note on a violin may be terrible at the time, but they are not life-changing experiences. Failing to clear an intersection because you're on the phone can kill your best friend and change your life forever. You don't read, eat, or talk on the phone while shooting free throws, catching fly balls, or playing the violin, so why do it while driving? What's different?
The on-road, real-life driving situations that follow have been divided into segments devoted to accident-producing topics. Keep in mind that eye movement is critical to hazard recognition and your safety. You'll see small yellow arrows that could be hazards and large red arrows which are potentially dangerous. Move your eyes from arrow to arrow, focusing on the most serious hazards, but keep in mind that there is always more than one hazard in every situation. You should always be thinking about what you'll do if that hazard crosses your path. The key is awareness. You can't avoid an accident if you don't see the hazard. Learning to scan for hazards, recognizing their potential danger, and knowing what to do in any given situation will keep you alive. Remember, scan, recognize, and react. This is a skill you'll use for the rest of your life.
Let's talk about some basic safety rules before driving. We know that drivers who recognize and react to potential hazards in advance will avoid auto accidents, but safe driving begins before you ever pick up the car keys. You have to make very important decisions, and the wrong decision will change your life.
Never drive impaired, and don't ride in any vehicle with a driver that is impaired. There are many types of impairment. Remember, driving is not a game. It's a skill, and it requires all of your attention from the time you turn on the engine until you turn it off. So don't drink or use drugs and then drive. Imagine how you'll feel the rest of your life if you kill someone just because you had to drive. And don't say it won't happen to you. It happens every day to teens who said that and now wish they could change it all. They can't. Your decision is permanent. Make the right choice.
Emotions can also affect your driving. Pull yourself together before getting behind the wheel. Reckless driving, racing, and aggressive driving will all increase your chance of being in an accident. Just being tired can make you a bad driver. And then there's traffic. No one likes to sit in traffic. It's very frustrating. But don't let it get to you. Remain patient in traffic and alert at all times, because other frustrated drivers will surprise you with their behavior. Now let's head to the car and see what we need to do before we ever start the engine.
Before starting up, scan for objects in your travel path and check the condition of your vehicle. When approaching your parked vehicle, look in front, under, and behind, scanning for any objects in your travel path, especially children or toys. It is also important to check the condition of your vehicle prior to driving. On the outside, check the body and tires while looking for leaks underneath. You don't want to be stranded out on the roads because you didn't see an obvious problem with your car before you started. Once behind the wheel, adjust the seat and make sure that your mirrors are properly set prior to vehicle movement. Half of your vehicle is behind you, so it's very important to make sure that your mirrors are set properly. You should be able to see the very edge of your vehicle in each side mirror, and your center mirror should give you the widest view possible. You also need to be aware of the area next to your vehicle that can't be seen in the mirrors, and to clear that area, you have to turn your head and look. Distractions and speeding cause the vast majority of accidents. When your phone rings while you're driving, what will you do? Will you answer it and mentally drift off? These are the choices that you'll make every time you get behind the wheel. Make the safe choice. It's also our obligation to make sure that our lights, steering, brakes, windshield wipers, and horn are always working properly. Check them on a regular basis. Seatbelts must be worn any time the vehicle is in motion. Verify that all vehicle occupants are belted in prior to movement. No one plans to have an auto accident. They can happen at any time that you're not paying attention and staying aware of the hazards. Now that we're ready to go, let's take a ride and discuss the basics of driving. Our goal is to eliminate the hazards we face, since the more danger we encounter, the more chance of an accident. By following some basic rules, we are able to reduce many of the hazards in our travel path. But safe driving does not end there. As we drive, we must also keep our eyes constantly scanning for hazards, recognizing the danger in those hazards and reacting, if needed.
On a busy city street, drivers may face more than 60 different hazards per minute. Being able to recognize those hazards and respond accordingly is critical in the prevention of auto accidents. Once you recognize a hazard, you need to think about your reaction. As you begin to see the same hazard over and over again as you drive, your reaction becomes automatic. That's experience. Safe driving requires you to have an appropriate reaction to every hazard.
In this segment, we will start to discuss the most serious injury-producing collisions you'll encounter, which are intersection accidents, head-on accidents, hitting another vehicle in the rear, pedestrians, and cyclists. Remember to constantly shift your eyes to each hazard, concentrating on those of most importance.
Driving is dangerous. Whether it's a pedestrian that might step out into your path or another vehicle that almost sideswipes you as they're passing, your eye movement and ability to recognize these potential dangers in any situation is critical. How you handle the thousands of hazards you face every time you get behind the wheel will determine whether you make it to your destination safely. Scanning, recognizing, and reacting to each of those dangers in advance makes you a defensive driver. No matter what happens, you're ready, and because you see the danger developing, you're able to adjust your travel path. Since we know that hitting another vehicle in the rear can be a very serious accident, we want to keep watching those vehicles ahead of us in case they pull in front of us or stop unexpectedly. Maintain at least a 4-second space cushion with the vehicle in front at all times. When another vehicle moves into that 4-second space cushion, we need to back off to reestablish the proper following time. We want to increase that following time as our speed increases or road conditions change. If you run into the car in front of you, it's almost always your fault, and it's usually because you were distracted for some reason. Learn to back off. Keep your eyes scanning out front in the distance, aiming at an area down the road in the center of your travel path. This will allow you to recognize hazards in advance and gives you more time to react. You're responsible for all of the hazards in this space ahead of your vehicle. And cars may come at you from every angle. In each situation, you need to be thinking about what you would do if one of those hazards moves into your path. Can you move to the left or right? Or do you need to slow and stop? Always have an escape route in mind. Intersection collisions cause a high number of injuries. Obey all traffic signs, signals, and pavement markings, and always stop behind the stop line or crosswalk. The only way to know what is happening around your vehicle is to scan out front and then check to the side and rear using your vehicle's mirrors. Keep shifting your eyes to the different hazards, whether it's the oncoming traffic, the intersections on the right, the cars to the side and behind you, or the overhead signs. And always check your mirrors when slowing or stopping to avoid getting hit in the rear. If they're right behind you, you may have to slow down gradually. When you're stopped at a red light, use the time to scan your surroundings, looking for hazards such as pedestrians trying to cross the street or impatient drivers making crazy maneuvers. While most drivers waiting on lights are either physically or mentally distracted, defensive drivers spend their time looking for hazards. Your travel path may look good as the intersection clears and the light changes, but consider how many ways that you could be in a collision at this intersection once you drive into it. And it only takes one bad driver to ruin your life. Never put your future into someone else's hands. Like every other intersection, even though you may have the right of way, always be prepared to stop. Now when the light changes and we proceed, we'll clear the intersection by looking left, right, and left again, making sure that everyone has stopped. Don't assume that other drivers will obey the law, and if you're first in line at the light, don't jump out there as soon as the light changes. Hesitate a few seconds, because as you know, too many people run red lights. Watch your speed. Know the posted speed limit and your speed at all times. Stay alert to changes in speed limits. Even when a school zone is not in operation, continue to watch for children since they're nearby and unpredictable. Slow down and be ready for the unexpected. Same with the road work zone. Reduce your speed and be ready for pedestrians. Speed limits are set for your safety on dry roads. It's up to you to adjust your speed to varying road, weather, and traffic conditions. Keep scanning for hazards. Any crossroad should be considered an intersection. This would include driveways and parking lots. Trees, bushes, or objects near the road may hide animals or children. If they move into the road, the affected drivers may move into your lane without looking. Where will you go to avoid a collision? Can you move to the left or the right? Have you checked your mirrors? Will you need to slow gradually or slam on the brakes? If you have to stop, what about the car behind you? Always have an out no matter what happens. Curves in the road have their own problems. You're limited on how far down the road you can see. Don't make a U-turn where it is not possible to see the oncoming vehicles. If you can't see them, they can't see you and will probably not be able to stop in time. Stay centered in your lane and be prepared for the poor actions of other drivers. Intersections in the curves are extremely dangerous. They can't see you coming when they pull across your lane, and you can't see them. Drive at a speed where you can take evasive action if needed. When turning, signal your intention to turn well in advance. When stopped in traffic, leave enough space in front to see the rear tires of the vehicle ahead, and when that vehicle starts to move, we want to hesitate a few seconds just to establish our space cushion. If that car moves out into the intersection and we're right behind them, and they have to stop suddenly because another driver ran the light, we'll hit them in the rear and push them further into the intersection. When turning, clear the intersection, turn into the closest lane, and watch for other drivers that may be trying to turn from the wrong lanes. When entering a highway, turn on your blinker, search for open spaces in the closest lane where you can merge, and get up to highway speeds. Verify that no one else is moving into that same lane by checking your mirrors and turning your head to clear your path. Then move over and establish your following distance. Our ability to scan our surroundings for hazards, recognize those hazards, and react accordingly is even more important now that we're traveling at faster speeds. By keeping our eyes out front in the distance, we recognize that the SUV just hit their brakes and we know that the truck on our left will have to slow. If they don't see the slowing SUV in time, they may swerve into our lane. Because we constantly check our mirrors, we know that we can slow or move over to the right lane if needed. We have our escape route planned just in case. Communication on the highway is extremely important. Let other drivers know of your intentions by using your blinker whenever needed. When changing lanes, search for an open space in the lane that you want to move into and turn on your blinker. Verify that no one else is also moving into that same lane by checking your mirrors and turning your head to clear your path. Then reestablish your following distance. Because of your high speed, road signs come and go quickly. Pay attention to where you're going. And if you slow down to read a sign, be careful, you may get hit in the rear. Driver inattention is a major cause of crashes, especially in rear-end collisions. Distractions, such as interacting with passengers, eating, personal grooming, using the phone, or adjusting the stereo system, are especially dangerous. Distractions at highway speeds can be fatal. Whenever you see brake lights come on in the distance, look for the hazard. What caused the truck to slow? Is it a slow-moving car? Is there an accident? Was the truck moving too fast for conditions? Or is there another hazard that you should be aware of? By reacting to the hazards that you recognize in advance, you reduce your chance of having an accident. Remember, it's always safer to travel on an open road than to be surrounded by other moving vehicles. And when we are surrounded by several hazards at once, we must continue to scan them all and focus on those that appear the most dangerous. As your hazards increase, you must become more aware of the dangers involved, and we can now see that we also have some road work up ahead. We can see that the road splits in front of us. Many drivers make last-minute lane changes. Be prepared to react if necessary. With the car following too close right behind us, the truck coming up on our right does not have a chance to move over if they're going left at the road split. We'll let them get ahead of us and move over. Then we'll quickly back off to reestablish our space cushion. And since the car right behind us has moved over, that shouldn't be any problem. Our goal is to avoid dangerous situations whenever possible. By scanning for hazards, recognizing those dangerous situations, and reacting in advance, we greatly reduce our chance of having an accident.
Maintain at least a 4-second space cushion with the vehicle in front at all times. Remember, when another vehicle moves into your space cushion, back off to reestablish the proper following time. There are many reasons why the vehicle in front of you may stop unexpectedly. Having a good following distance is the first step in avoiding a collision.
Hitting another vehicle in the rear can cause very serious injuries. If you hit that car in front of you, in most cases you became distracted for some reason, you have total control of that area directly in front of your car. So back off and give yourself some room. Following distance is even more important on the highway. Always increase your following time as your speed increases, since it will take a greater distance to stop.
Maintain at least a 4-second space cushion with the vehicle in front at all times. Pick out a stationary object, and as the vehicle ahead of you passes that object, start counting. When your car passes that same object, you'll know how many seconds of following time you have. Here, when the car in front of us passes the warning sign on the right, we'll start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a good following distance. If it's less than 4, we need to back off some more. Intersections are especially dangerous, since that's where most of the serious injuries occur. As the car ahead pulls in front of us, we want to establish that 4-second following time, so we need to slow down until we get that 4-second space cushion. These 4 seconds will give us time to react in any given situation, and always increase the following time as your speed increases or road conditions change. Hitting another vehicle in the rear can cause very serious injuries. If you hit that car in front of you, in most cases you became distracted for some reason, you have total control of that area directly in front of your car, so back off and give yourself some room. And never be surprised at what other drivers will do. They may be distracted, sleepy, impaired, or just not paying attention and slam on their brakes right in front of you. You have to pay attention. Our goal is to recognize hazards, plan our reactions, and avoid any accident-producing situation, no matter what the other driver does. When you're stopped in traffic, leave enough space in front of your car to see the rear tires of the vehicle ahead. While you're sitting there, constantly scan around your vehicle and watch for the changing hazards, and when the vehicle ahead of you starts to move, hesitate for a few seconds to establish your initial space cushion. Whenever you're driving past a line of vehicles, always expect someone to get tired of waiting in line and pull out into your lane, sometimes without looking. You have to be ready for this. By checking your mirrors, you know that you can move to the left lane if needed. Following distance is even more important on the highway. Always increase your following time as your speed increases, since it will take you a greater distance to stop. If an accident occurs up in front of you, your lane could be completely blocked. Always be prepared so that you could stop in time and be thinking about where you would go if you had to take evasive actions. And remember, when another vehicle moves into your space cushion, back off to re-establish the proper following time. There are many reasons why the vehicle in front of you may stop unexpectedly. Having a good following distance is the first step in avoiding a collision. Not only are we concerned about our space cushion in the front, but we also need to be aware of what's going on behind us. As we begin to slow, we should check our mirrors to verify that those behind us are slowing as well. Driving in traffic can be extremely frustrating. Even though you're moving slower, it requires your undivided attention. We want to use our 4-second space cushion to avoid those sudden stops we would have to make when the vehicle in front of us makes an unexpected move. Hitting another car in the rear in traffic is very common, and it can lead to serious injuries. It happens because drivers feel that they can use this boring time to focus on areas other than driving, such as talking on the phone, interacting with passengers, eating, and even personal grooming. If you're the first in line waiting for a light to change, hesitate and wait a few seconds before you move out when it turns green. Don't rush the intersection. You don't need to be the first in the intersection. Too many drivers run red lights with terrible consequences. Spend that few seconds clearing the intersection again. Left, right, left. The few seconds you wait before jumping into the intersection can save your life. Remember, intersection accidents cause the most serious injuries. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong in an accident if you or your passengers are injured or killed. Never let other drivers rush you or make you take shortcuts. They will only get you in trouble. Once you let emotions take over, it's very difficult to react properly to the hazards that you recognize. By increasing your following distance in crowded situations, you're better prepared to handle all of the hazards you encounter. Occasionally, we need to back off quickly to get ourselves out of a dangerous situation. That's okay. By constantly checking our mirrors, we know that we can slow down since there is not a vehicle directly behind us. Once we achieve our desired space cushion, we can maintain our original speed. With that space, if the vehicle ahead of us had to slow or stop quickly due to the cars in front of them, or an object laying in the road, or even an animal that bolts across the highway in their lane, we're ready to react. Otherwise, we're part of an accident that we could have avoided. Sometimes we need to back off, but we need to do it gradually or risk getting hit in the rear by the car following us. We are able to make that decision because we know where the vehicles are around us. We knew that the vehicle on our left only had one place to go, and that was to move over in front of us. We expected it. We'll now reestablish our space cushion. Constantly scan out into the distance toward the center of your travel path. This will allow you to recognize hazards in advance and gives you more time to react. As a defensive driver, you're responsible for all of the hazards in this area ahead of your vehicle. Try to look around the turn. 2-lane roads are dangerous. Trees on the right and oncoming traffic on the left. Both can be deadly. The quicker you see a potential hazard in front, the more time you have to react. And reducing your speed in the curve will also give you more reaction time. Curves are so dangerous because you can't see your travel path. Keep trying to look around the turn. Travel at a speed where you won't have to take evasive action. Always be prepared for the road to be blocked with an accident or a car to drift into your lane, which can happen easily with a distracted driver. While we should never pass on a curve or make a U-turn where it's not possible to see the oncoming vehicles, we know that other drivers probably will. If you go into each curve expecting the worst, you'll come out alive. By increasing my following distance, I have more time to plan my travel path to eliminate as many hazards as possible. Remember, the fewer the hazards we face, the less likely we'll have an accident. The open road is the safest place to drive. When I move my eyes out front, I should be scanning out into the distance toward the center of my travel path. If the road was blocked up ahead, or traffic was slowing, or even someone was driving on the wrong side of the road, I would have plenty of time to react, whether slowing, stopping, changing lanes, or moving off the road altogether. By giving myself room to maneuver, I have options. A 4-second following distance is the minimum. If I don't have space around me, I'm at the mercy of other drivers, and that's not safe driving. When you have open space around your vehicle, there are no surprises. You're able to see hazards as they develop, making it easier to plan your reaction. Always maintain that 4-second following distance. Having more space also makes it easier to track fast-moving hazards relative to your vehicle. Because you're prepared, just maintain your lane and speed. No one should be surprised while driving. When moving at highway speeds, give yourself more time. Increase your following distance. You can't have enough space. With the faster speeds, you have less time to recognize hazards and you have less time to react if needed. Remember, any time a vehicle moves into that space in front, back off to reestablish a minimum of 4-second following time. Here, if something on the side of the road caused the truck to move to the center lane, you're prepared if the car in front slows quickly. Sometimes it's difficult to see past objects to get a good view of your travel path. Be cautious when your forward visibility is limited. When in doubt, slow down and give yourself more space. While trucks need more room to maneuver due to their size, their drivers tend to drive better than average, since they drive for a living. Because of where they sit, truck drivers rely heavily on their mirrors to get a complete picture of their surroundings. Remember, if you can't see the truck's mirrors, then the truck driver probably doesn't see you. It's always safer if you position your vehicle where it can be seen by the truck driver. Having a good view of where you're going is critical to accident prevention. By maintaining a good following distance, you're able to recognize hazards in advance. When you see brake lights come on, you know someone is slowing. Why? What's in front of them making them slow down? Is there an accident? Should you slow? The same goes for blinkers. How will the scene change if a vehicle changes lanes? And what does that mean for you? Give yourself more following distance in curves. Like you, the vehicle ahead has limited visibility. Expect surprises. Your reactions may be tested. What happens if you drop your front right wheel off the pavement? Slow down and ease your way back onto the road. Don't try to overcorrect and immediately jerk it back onto the road. When your front wheel hits the edge of the road at an angle, it could force you right across the road into oncoming traffic with deadly results.
There are so many things that can go wrong at intersections. Always be prepared to stop, even if you have the right-of-way. Vehicles can enter from either side, and cars can turn in front of you without warning. Never become distracted as you begin to enter any intersection. You and your passengers can be killed or injured if you're not paying attention. It happens quickly. Clear every lane and make sure it's safe to enter the intersection.
Heavy traffic and pedestrians are a deadly combination at intersections. Keep scanning, slow down, and pay close attention. Expect pedestrians to always assume that they have the right-of-way. They may step right out in front of you. Always be prepared to stop, and don't assume that the other drivers will always follow the law.
Intersection collisions are one of the most serious injury-producing accidents. Our definition of intersections includes driveways, parking lots, or any type of entrance to our travel path. Each of these intersections can hold potential hazards, so it's our goal to clear each hazard before we enter the intersection. Prior to entering an intersection, look left, right, and left again. and clear every lane of intersecting traffic. Don't put your life in someone else's hands by assuming that they'll stop, even if everyone else has. It's possible for one lane to stop, but a distracted driver in the second lane may drive on out. And also clear your exit path out of the intersection. Sometimes we're so preoccupied with the hazards in the intersection that we fail to clear our path as we exit. Cars could be stopped or pedestrians could be crossing. Always watch for vehicles turning left in front of us, crossing our travel path. Since they may have a green light, they may think that they have the right of way, especially if they're distracted. Don't trust other drivers. There are so many things that can go wrong at intersections. Always be prepared to stop, even if you have the right of way. Vehicles can enter from either side, and cars can turn in front of you without warning. In most situations, it may be difficult to take evasive actions without causing another accident, so you must enter the intersection at a speed that enables you to slow or stop if needed. Remember, any crossroad should be considered an intersection. This would include driveways and parking lots. Since your view of the upcoming intersection is blocked to the right, slow down or move over to the center lane to give you more time to react to any hazard that may pop out. By constantly checking your mirrors, you know that you can move to the left if needed. And keep alert to all traffic signs, signals, and pavement markings. Keep in mind that every one of these parking lot entrance ways has the potential to hold a vehicle wanting to cross your path. They must be cleared just like every intersection. That vehicle you miss may be the one that hits you. Your goal is to never be surprised, and moving to the center lane will also give you more time to scan, recognize, and react to those hazards. Never become distracted as you begin to enter any intersection. You and your passengers can be killed or injured for life, if you're not paying attention. It happens quickly. Clear every lane and make sure it's safe to enter. Signal your intention to turn well in advance and apply right turn on red correctly. Clear your travel path before turning. Turn right into the right lane and turn left into the left lane. That way, if you don't see an approaching vehicle, you've got a chance that they can move to another lane and avoid a collision. While watching those hazards within the intersection, I also have to be concerned about the hazards on the other side of the intersection. If I'm going straight, it's easy to see those hazards, but if I'm turning, I need to be aware that the road could be blocked with cars or pedestrians could be crossing the street. Intersections and curves are especially dangerous. Visibility is usually limited, so drive at a speed where you can stop safely. Come to a full stop at stop signs. Stop behind the stop line or crosswalk, and always clear left, right, and left again. Slow down and be prepared to take evasive action anytime you're not sure of the intentions of the other drivers. Heavy traffic and pedestrians are a deadly combination at intersections. Keep scanning, slow down, and pay close attention. Expect pedestrians to always assume that they have the right of way. They may step right out in front of you. Always be prepared to stop. And don't assume that other drivers will be so courteous. Whenever you're unsure in a situation, slow down or stop until you know the intentions of others. Many times, pedestrians are not paying attention and may step out in front of you. Always slow and get ready to take evasive action if needed. Sometimes you may have to tap your horn to get their attention or slow or change lanes if needed to avoid pedestrians. Sometimes pedestrians may show unexpectedly in dangerous areas. By our constant scanning looking for hazards, we should see them wherever they are and plenty of time to react. We must also be ready for the actions of those drivers that don't see them until the last moment. Most road work is done while the road is still open to traffic. This puts the workers at a great risk of being hit by a distracted driver. Remember, slow down, move over if you can, prepare for the unexpected, and watch for traffic signs. You're responsible for knowing how to read and react to those sign markings. Your response may save a worker's life. Always stop for pedestrians in a crosswalk. Plan ahead so that you don't surprise that car behind you when you stop. While we're concentrating on the pedestrians and the car behind us, we must also realize that we have an intersection to the right that we must clear. Whenever you're driving by a line of parked vehicles, watch for people getting in or out of their cars, and also scan for any signs that the car may be starting to move, such as exhaust, tail lights, blinker, or even someone sitting behind the wheel. Pedestrians walking across the cross streets that run into your street are at an even greater risk. If I was turning right at this intersection, I might miss the pedestrian crossing my travel path as I turn. Clear your exit travel path before entering an intersection. Keep your eyes scanning your path, looking for hazards, and never make a last-minute turn. It's too dangerous. Whenever you don't have clearly defined lanes, as in this case, expect unusual activity. Cars and pedestrians can come at you from all angles, and it's up to you to stay alert, avoid the hazards, and take evasive action if needed. Remember, pedestrians and cyclists don't stand a chance against your car. When entering a highway, search for open spaces where you can merge. As we increase our speed to highway speeds, we should have a spot in the traffic lane picked out. We turn on our blinker and check our mirrors to make sure it's clear. Then we turn our head to verify that spot is still open as we move over. We then quickly establish our space cushion. While a 4-second following time is good for slower speeds, we must increase that space in front when on the highway. The time it takes you to stop has greatly increased. Slower traffic merging from an angle onto the highway is a dangerous hazard. Stay alert to this traffic. As I enter this highway, I'll turn on my blinker, search for open spaces in the closest lane where I can merge, and get up to highway speeds. I'll verify that no one else is moving into the same lane by checking my mirrors and turning my head to clear my path. Then I'll move over and establish my following distance. If we travel in this lane, we must be ready to react quickly. By checking our mirrors, we know we can move over to the left if needed to avoid a hazard. It's much safer to move to the middle lane on this road where we'll have fewer hazards and more time to react. When you see warning signs, plan your travel path. Your lane ends up ahead. Check your mirrors and move over. Start searching for open space where you can merge. Get back up to highway speeds. Turn on your blinker and check your mirrors to make sure it's clear. Then turn your head to verify that spot is still open as you move over. Even with your mirrors set properly, you have an area next to our car that you need to clear before you move over. Changing lanes without signaling or clearing the lane is extremely dangerous. With each step you add, such as using your blinker, checking your mirror, or turning your head, you become a safer driver. Reduce your odds of having an accident by following the proper steps each and every time. You know that the one time you get lazy and don't look will be the one time that you sideswipe another car and cause a high-speed accident. When you merge into the highway, you're searching for an open spot, but not everybody does that. If you see traffic merging into your lane, you want to give them plenty of room. You may even want to move over a lane in order to eliminate that hazard. That's smart driving. Remember the 3 steps when changing lanes. Use your blinker, check your mirror, and turn your head to clear the lane. Whether it's merging on highways or intersections in your neighborhood, anytime there's a change in the smooth flow of traffic, it's dangerous. Planning ahead by moving to a safer lane is usually the best move. Moving through intersections in the center lane gives you more visibility and makes you more visible to others, but never change lanes in the intersection. Moving over also places more distance between you and the hazards along the roadside. Remember to turn into the closest lane. By turning into this lane, near the curb, I have a chance of avoiding an accident if I didn't see an oncoming car. If I pull across into the second lane, they have no chance of avoiding me. Once the turn is complete, move over when it's clear. Get in the habit of turning right into the right lane and left into the left lane. There's more than one hazard in every scene. While you want to focus on the most important, you must also keep scanning all the others. Here, we have hazards all around us. If a road worker steps out in front of the car ahead of us and they stop fast, we are likely to get hit in the rear if we stop suddenly. Know that you'd have to slow gradually. Your goal is to be able to recognize every possible hazard in advance and think about what you would do if you had to react to that hazard, and consider the consequences of your actions. And remember, intersections are always full of multiple hazards. Here, moving over to the left lane keeps you farther away from the hazards along the side of the road and makes it easier to clear intersections, but it puts you closer to the oncoming vehicles. Up ahead, I see that there's a parked van on the right and I'm looking for the driver. If the driver steps out and I'm not prepared, I may swerve into the oncoming lane. Never be surprised. Slow down and expect the unexpected.
Head-on collisions are one of the most common fatal accidents. They usually occur because one vehicle crosses over the center line and strikes an oncoming car. Driving too fast into a curve, distracted driving, and poor weather conditions are some of the more common factors involved with head-on collisions.
Two-lane roads are some of the most dangerous roads you'll drive on. On one side, you have oncoming traffic with drivers who are just 5 feet away from destroying your life, and on the other side, you have large trees or structures that will not give with your vehicle. Staying in the middle of your lane is easy if you keep your eyes up and centered towards your travel path. But what do you do if you drop to the right side off the pavement? Don't panic. Slow down or stop if you have to. Check the traffic behind you and ease your way back onto the road. Don't try to overcorrect and immediately jerk your vehicle back onto the road. When your front wheels hit the edge of the road at an angle, it could force you across the road into oncoming traffic or even flip your vehicle.
Don't pass on a hill or a curve or make a U-turn where you can't see oncoming vehicles because they won't see you either until it's too late.
Head-on collisions are one of the most common fatal accidents. They usually occur because one vehicle crosses over the center line and strikes an oncoming car. The impact forces of two vehicles hitting head-on are tremendous. There are several reasons why someone might cross over into your lane, but they all relate to the poor judgment of the other driver. Driving too fast into a curve, distracted driving, and poor weather conditions are some of the more common factors involved with head-on collisions. But again, a defensive driver should know that you reduce your speed in a curve, pay attention while driving, and slow down in bad weather. Bad weather always plays a major role in the loss of traction for your tires. Even here, if the roads were starting to freeze, oncoming traffic traveling too fast for conditions would have tendency to slide over into your lane any time they hit an icy patch. The vehicles traveling right next to you would also slide out towards your lane. Be prepared for this by evaluating the weather conditions. Keep in mind that in icy weather, bridges and overpasses tend to freeze over before the rest of the road. Be thinking about your reaction if someone slid over into your lane. What would you do? Where would you go? Head-on collisions on the highway are especially devastating. At the high speeds of oncoming traffic, cars can be destroyed and lives shattered in seconds. Many highways, even those with grass medians, may have some type of barricade dividing the two directions in order to help stop vehicles from crossing over into your lane, but don't count on it stopping everything. When accidents occur, cars may flip and become airborne. As a defensive driver, it's your obligation to scan for hazards up ahead, recognize a dangerous situation that's occurring in front of you in either lane, and plan your reaction. Accidents in the oncoming lane happen the same way they happen in your lane. Someone is not paying attention and sideswipes or rear ends another vehicle, spinning that car out of control at 55 miles per hour. That car may flip and will likely head off the road, either into the trees or across the median, if it doesn't hit another vehicle first. At that point, every other vehicle traveling at highway speeds is trying to avoid the damage, which may cause more accidents. Stay alert and prepared. Two-lane roads may look pretty, but they are some of the most dangerous roads you'll drive on. On one side, you have oncoming traffic with drivers who are just 5 feet away from destroying your life. And on the other side, you have large trees that will not give with your vehicle, and if you hit the trees, you'll be severely injured. You have to constantly be alert. Watch for impaired or distracted drivers drifting over into your lane. If you turn your attention away from the road while turning in curve, even for a split second, you have a tendency to continue straight into the oncoming traffic. This is quite common. Always be thinking about how you'll avoid a collision if someone moves into your lane. Can you move to the right? Is it clear? Or will you have to stop? Remember, hitting another vehicle with a glancing blow is always better than hitting them head-on. Also watch for impaired or impatient drivers to pass in no passing zones. You can minimize this danger if you keep scanning as far as you can around the curve, recognize this hazard developing, and reacting immediately. If they're in your lane, get out of their way. Judging the speed of oncoming traffic can be difficult. Some drivers turning left in front of you may not leave you enough space, causing you to take evasive action. Can you stop to avoid hitting them if they turn? If not, slow down prior to the intersection, just in case. The collision may not be your fault, but it doesn't matter if you're injured. Always know your speed limit. Entering a curve too fast for conditions will cause you to move across the center line into the oncoming traffic. Speed is just one of the several factors that may move you out of your lane. To avoid this, reduce your speed in a curve. Staying in the middle of your lane is easy if you keep your eyes up and centered towards your travel path. But what happens if you do drop your right side off the pavement? Don't panic. Slow down or stop if you have to. Check the traffic behind you and ease your way back onto the road. Don't try to overcorrect and immediately jerk it back onto the road. When your front wheel hits the edge of the road at an angle, it could force you across the road into the oncoming traffic. Whenever you drive near trees or bushes, you've always got to stay alert for wild animals. Deer accidents are fairly common and they can be very serious. If you hit the deer head on, they could end up in your front seat. Animals are unpredictable. Don't gamble on them staying out of your path. If you come upon an animal near the road, slow down and honk your horn or flash your lights if needed. And if you don't see any animals but you're in an area where they tend to cross the road, slow down and expect some activity. If you're traveling too fast and they bolt into your lane, know that if you swerve to miss them, you may cause a terrible head-on accident. Stay alert and be ready. When entering curves, reduce your speed to avoid losing traction and moving out of your lane. Slippery roads make it worse. Your vehicle will not handle the same and will tend to slide on wet pavement. Stay centered in your lane and be prepared for the poor actions of other drivers. If there is something in your lane in the curve, you need to know how to react. Where will you go? Can you get off the road to the right? Do you have enough time to stop? Make these decisions before you enter every curve. If you don't think that you'll have enough time to stop if your lane is blocked, then slow down before you enter the curve. Our goal is to have an answer for every hazard. Don't pass on a hill or curve or make a U-turn where you can't see oncoming vehicles because they won't see you either until it's too late. Then they have a choice between hitting you, swerving into the oncoming lane, or running into the trees off the road. No matter the decision, someone is injured. Something so simple as stopping and waiting for traffic to pass before you turn left can be a dangerous situation in some curves. Always consider the consequences of your actions. Sometimes you may even have pedestrians walking or cyclists riding in your lane when you're moving through a curve. Expect it. Keep in mind that if your vehicle hits a person, they will be seriously injured. Now, they probably should not have been in your lane, but you could have avoided the accident. Approach every curve with a plan on how you handle any hazard, no matter if it's animals running across the road, people walking in your lane, or oncoming cars drifting across the center line. By scanning out front around the curve and constantly checking your mirrors, you can plan any evasive action if needed. But the goal is to always enter the curve at a speed that will allow you to slow or stop in time to avoid an accident.
Whether it's backing or moving around stationary objects, you need to know your vehicle. Are your mirrors set at all times? For reference, can you see the very edge of your vehicle in each side mirror? And does your center mirror offer you the best view? Are you aware of the area next to your vehicle that can't be seen in mirrors? Do you know that to clear that area, you have to turn your head?
Whenever you're moving around a stationary object, watch your vehicle. Clear it in one of your mirrors. Good mirror usage will help prevent the two most common accidents, backing and hitting a stationary object. Practice using your mirrors until it becomes a habit.
Parking lots are dangerous areas for several reasons. You have drivers with limited visibility moving into congested traffic patterns that are full of inattentive drivers who tend to be concentrating more on parking spaces or exits than the vehicles around them. And when you throw in the pedestrians that are moving between the vehicles, it's no wonder that quite a few accidents occur in parking lots. Keep your eyes scanning for hazards. Any vehicle could back out into you as you pass. Backup lights, drivers behind their steering wheel, vehicle exhaust, and people walking between cars are just some of the signs of potential hazards that you may have to deal with. There are 3 ways to park in this lot. We can pull into the space, we can back into the space, or we can pull straight through when 2 adjoining spaces are open. Pulling through is the safest since it requires no backing. Since we can't pull through here, we'll back into a cleared parking space and then pull forward out into the lane of traffic when we leave. As you approach your parking spot, scan the area looking for objects and pedestrians. While backing, keep looking at the area into which your vehicle is backing by turning your head as well as using your mirrors to check for approaching traffic. Again, your visibility going backwards is always limited, so back at a slow speed. This may seem difficult at first because most drivers are not comfortable backing, but over time you'll get very good at it. Remember, no one feels good moving backwards, but it's safer to do it in an enclosed parking space that we've cleared rather than a moving line of traffic that's constantly changing. You'll have to back every time you drive for the rest of your life. Practice and get good at it. Never assume that you're safe when driving through a parking lot. It's very easy for people to get distracted when they return to their car. Even though their path behind them may be clear when they walked up, their entire surroundings can change in the 10+ seconds it takes to get in and start backing. And with their limited backward visibility, it's up to you to avoid a collision. Scanning and recognizing these hazards will make you safer. When you have to park head-in into a diagonal parking spot, you're forced to back out into a lane of flowing traffic and pedestrians. You need to scan around the area as you return to your vehicle, looking for any signs of movement. As you begin to back, turn your head as well as use your mirrors. A driver's visibility to the rear is limited, so back at a slow speed and always be prepared to stop. Stay alert. Other cars may be traveling at high speeds and cutting through parking spaces, while pedestrians may be darting out from behind their vehicles. Just driving through a parking lot can be challenging. You now know that other drivers with limited visibility are backing into your lane of travel, and pedestrians can come from any direction at any time. Drive slow and be prepared for the unexpected actions of others. Drivers must always yield to pedestrians. They expect you to stop, so they may just step right out in front of your car without thinking. And people don't stand a chance against your car. Injuries are usually severe, if not fatal. Here's another situation where you can't pull through to park and you have to back. Anytime that you must back immediately after scanning the area. Once your path is cleared visually, start backing. While backing, keep looking into the area into which your vehicle is backing by turning your head as well as using your mirrors. A driver's visibility to the rear is limited, so back at a slow speed. And if you're ever in doubt about what is behind your vehicle while backing, stop, get out, and go look. Don't take chances. Now, after you've scanned around your vehicle upon return, you have a clear view of any approaching cars and pedestrians. You can pull out of your parking space confident that your path is clear. The safest way to park would be to scan your parking area and find a space that you can pull through, eliminating any need to back. If you're pulling through around parked vehicles, watch for pedestrians, especially those exiting their vehicles. It's always safer to pull forward out of your parking spot since you always have better visibility driving forward than backward. Constantly shift your eyes to different hazards out in front of your vehicle. Even though you recognize the danger in each hazard, it's important that you concentrate on those hazards that present the greatest likelihood of crossing your path. Here you should be expecting for cars to pull out and pedestrians to step into the road, but you can't forget about that oncoming driver who will cross over into your lane if someone jumps into theirs. Never be surprised. Always leave as much space as you can between any hazard and your car, even if that hazard is stationary, as in a line of parked vehicles. If you drive too close to one of the cars, will your mirror or back bumper scrape the side? What if someone inside opens their door? Will you knock their door off and injure the individual? These are hazards that you can avoid by staying centered in your lane and thinking about the danger in each hazard. Keep an eye on pedestrians. They'll cut across the street from any angle and expect you to stop. Expect pedestrians to move around parked vehicles, getting in and out. Plan on it. If you're surprised on the right, you'll hit the barrels on the left. It's better than hitting a person, but it still could have been avoided by recognizing the real danger in the hazard. Cars and pedestrians can come at you from all angles, and it's up to you to stay alert. Your goal should be to scan for any possible hazards, recognize the danger in those hazards, and react by eliminating those hazards from your travel path. When driving near parked vehicles, be prepared for pedestrians, especially children, around or exiting the vehicles. Children can be unpredictable. They'll jump into the street without knowing the consequences. Slow down and be ready for the unexpected. If a stopped or parked vehicle is occupied, expect the driver to pull out into your travel path. Constantly look for signs that there may be a driver behind the wheel. Are their tires turned out like they're getting ready to enter your travel lane? Are their brake lights on? Or is there exhaust from the engine? And if they pull out, what will you do? Do you have time to slow and stop? Can you go to the right? You don't want to cross the center line and hit another vehicle head-on. The results could be deadly. Also, watch the oncoming traffic. They face the same hazards that you do with parked vehicles on the curb and pedestrians walking around them. If they're distracted by looking for a place to park, any hazard that surprises them and moves into their travel path may cause them to cross the center line heading towards you. How will you react? By recognizing this hazard and knowing what can happen, you're better prepared to take evasive action if needed. While we scan for pedestrians that can step out into the street, occupied vehicles that may pull in front of us, and oncoming cars with distracted drivers, we can never forget about the cars directly in front and behind. Always leave at least a 4-second following distance in front and keep an eye on the vehicle behind us. We may need to slow gradually to avoid getting hit. Whether it's backing or moving around stationary objects, you need to know your vehicle. Are your mirrors set at all times? For reference, can you see the very edge of your vehicle in each side mirror, and does your center mirror offer the best view? Are you aware of the area next to your vehicle that can't be seen in the mirrors? And to clear that area, you have to turn your head to make sure it's clear. Whenever you're moving around a stationary object, watch your vehicle clear it in one of your mirrors. Good mirror usage will help prevent the two most common accidents, backing and hitting a stationary object. Practice using your mirrors until it becomes a habit.
When a ball rolls into the street in front of your car, you automatically try to avoid it. But at the same time, you need to realize that the real hazard is in the direction from which the ball came, possibly where a child is playing. Your reaction to the ball is based on your knowledge of the possible child. If you can't slow in time, you know that it's better to hit the ball than aim toward where the child might be. Driving requires you to think about every hazard. You don't go driving and take a break from thinking.
Distractions and speeding cause the vast majority of accidents. When your phone rings while you're driving, what will you do? Will you answer it and risk mentally drifting off? Or what if you're late to work? Will you speed because you're frustrated? These are the choices that you'll make every time you get behind the wheel. Make the safe choice.
Waiting in traffic can be very frustrating. You have things to do, and sitting in a line of cars is not one of them. It's easy to become both mentally and physically distracted, but it's a way of life in some cities. As drivers become impatient and begin to concentrate on other activities, their driving skills suffer, and this leads to a very common accident, hitting the car in front of you. You know that the car in front will stop many times in this traffic, you just don't know when, and when they do stop, if you're not ready, and you have very little space in front, then you will hit them. It's your fault. Even a minor collision at a slow speed can lead to some terrible injuries. Remember, keep a 4-second following distance at all times. When approaching a road work zone, always pay attention and drive slowly. Road construction workers are expecting you to observe the warning signs. Their lives depend on it. Working on a road that is kept open can be extremely dangerous. At times, workers may only be a few feet away from your moving car. Slow down. Like drivers, pedestrians can become distracted too. Once they start thinking about their work or family issues, they may find themselves stepping off the curb into your path. They also have a tendency to assume that drivers are paying attention and would always yield to them. In other words, they expect you to stop. To eliminate this hazard from your path, try to establish eye contact with pedestrians in close proximity. This might be done by a tap of the horn or a flash of your lights. Do they see you? Are they aware of your actions? If you're still not sure of their intentions, proceed at a speed where you can stop if needed. Also watch for pedestrians around shopping malls, office buildings, and schools, where you may have children coming at you from all different directions. Being mentally distracted will also limit the number of hazards you can track while behind the wheel. If your mind is worried about something that happened yesterday, then you might only concentrate on the construction on the left because it appears to be the most dangerous in this situation. But here, if someone steps out between the cars on the right, you might hit them because you're not ready for that. Concentrate and recognize the danger in each hazard. Never drive impaired. Don't ride in any vehicle with a driver that is impaired. Just don't drink and drive. When you're impaired, you drive worse because you increase your risk-taking. Your vision is impaired, and you're not able to scan for hazards. You don't comprehend the danger in each hazard, and your reactions to these real dangers are slow or non-existent. You will end up killing yourself, and worse, you will kill someone else, maybe your best friend. Stay off the roads, plan ahead, and don't ever put yourself in this dangerous situation. Speeding is dangerous. If you double your speed, you double your hazards per minute, and you cut your reaction time in half. Slow down. It's not worth the risk. You will hurt someone. And stay alert to changes in speed limits, such as school zones. Driving is a physical skill, like shooting a basketball, dancing, or playing a violin. You don't shoot free throws, dance, or play the violin while talking on the phone. It's no different with driving. It requires your undivided attention from start to finish. Distractions, such as interacting with passengers, eating, personal grooming, using the phone, or adjusting the stereo system, are especially dangerous. If you're distracted while driving, you're dangerous. Here we're moving within 5 feet of cars coming from the opposite direction. If you cross the center line, at least 2 people will be seriously injured, if not killed. You will not stay centered in your travel lane if you constantly look away from the road. You'll drift to one side or another, and if you're in a curve, you may look up to find yourself in the oncoming lane. Then it's too late. In crowded areas, your ability to scan for hazards, recognize the danger in those hazards, and react appropriately is even more critical. You must be prepared for the poor actions of distracted drivers and pedestrians. Keep in mind that even though they may be looking right at you, they might be mentally distracted and not really see you. To avoid a collision, always be ready to take evasive action if needed. Sometimes, your mirrors may get knocked out of alignment while your car is parked. That's not a problem. Just get in the habit of making sure that your mirrors are set every time you start your engine. The only way to know what is happening around your vehicle is to scan out front and then check to the side and rear using your vehicle's mirrors. If you can't see the hazards that are approaching your vehicle from the side and rear, it will be impossible to avoid collisions. Whether it's on the highway or in city traffic, good mirror usage is important. Make sure they're set properly. There may be times that one particular hazard may distract you. While you want to slow and stay focused on that danger, you must also keep scanning for other vehicles and pedestrians that could enter your travel path. Distractions and speeding cause the vast majority of accidents. When your phone rings while you're driving, what will you do? Will you answer it and mentally drift off? Or what if you're late to work? Will you speed because you're frustrated? These are the choices that you'll make every time you get behind the wheel. Make the safe choice.
As we've seen, to keep track of what is happening around you at all times, you must constantly shift your eyes to different hazards. Concentrate on those of most importance and plan your reaction should that hazard cross your travel path. Up until now, we have reviewed the basics of driving, which will reduce the hazards you face. Now we want to develop and reinforce your eye movement. To ensure that eye movement is taking place, we verbalize each hazard. Remember to keep your eyes shifting to each hazard and think about what you'd do if that hazard crossed your travel path. Where will you go? What evasive action will you take?
As we drive, scan for hazards by moving your eyes to each arrow. Think about why that hazard is potentially dangerous, how it could affect your travel path, and what should you do to avoid a collision. Your recognition of hazards is critical to your safety. Don't trust other drivers to do what they should do. Never put your life in the hands of another driver. If you don't see the hazard, you can't avoid it.
As we begin scanning for hazards, it's important to remember that there is usually more than one hazard in any scene. We should always concentrate on the most dangerous one, but stay alert to all hazards. By constantly scanning out into the distance toward the center of your travel path and then checking our mirrors, we are able to see potential dangers in advance and take action if needed. We should be looking for any moving or stationary objects, traffic zones, signals and signs, pavement markings, pedestrians, or other vehicles. Scanning. This is the first step in accident prevention. By knowing what's going on all around our vehicle when a hazard crosses our path, we are able to change lanes, move off the road, slow or stop, all without causing an accident. As we approach this light-controlled intersection, we are starting to slow and scan, looking at the traffic lights and signs, any pedestrian movement, and the location and activity of any vehicles. When we come to a complete stop, we should be able to see the rear tires of the vehicle ahead about 1 car length. This way, if they roll back before moving forward, they won't bump into us. Or, if we get hit from behind, we won't hit the car in front of us. Knowing that intersection accidents cause a high percentage of injuries, use this time to check out your surroundings. Do you see any pedestrians? What about vehicles moving outside of their lanes? There are hazard barrels at this intersection. Why? Are any lanes diverted or closed? Are there any road workers? Is any traffic not observing the lights? Whenever you see a hazard notification, such as a hazard barrel, slow down and find out why it's there. You may be able to avoid a collision. When we see the light change, we'll hesitate a few seconds to let the car ahead move out. This establishes our initial space cushion. Many times, that driver ahead may stop for a car running the red light, or they may decide to turn at the last moment. If we're too close, we'll hit them in the rear, and it's totally our fault. Before we enter any intersection, we must clear it by looking left, right, and left again to make sure it's safe, and intersections include driveways and parking lots. Drivers should always be prepared to stop at every intersection, even if they have the right of way. If we travel in this lane, we must be ready to react quickly. By checking our mirrors, we know we can move over to the left if needed to avoid a hazard. It's much safer to move to the middle lane on this road, where we'll have fewer hazards and more time to react. To move to the center lane, I'll watch for openings as the vehicles move from my left mirror to out front. Once I know it's clear, I'll turn on my left blinker, turn my head and check my left mirror, and then look out my left window to clear the area right next to my car that is missed by my mirror. And as I'm doing all of this, I still need to scan for hazards and be ready to react. Half of your vehicle is behind you. Get good at using your mirrors. Once we get good at moving our eyes and scanning for hazards, we must learn how to recognize hazards, our second step in accident prevention. What are hazards? Hazards are anything that could cross our travel path and cause a collision. The more hazards we face, the greater the chance of an accident. In the previous segments, we've discussed the basics of driving. Our goal has been to eliminate as many hazards as we can by driving defensively, giving ourselves plenty of room around our vehicle and more time to react if needed. Intersections are full of hazards coming from all directions. That's why they're so dangerous. But, as we've learned, there are several things that we can do when moving through an intersection to reduce those hazards we face. Let's start by considering the following traffic. If we slam on our brakes to stop instead of slowing, then we'll likely get hit in the rear. And if we don't check to the rear when slowing, then we can't take evasive action if needed. By leaving ourselves that car length in front, we have room to move if needed. And as we start up, we hesitate and quickly lengthen our following distance. But before we enter that intersection, we clear it by looking left, right, and left again. Drivers turning right on red and distracted drivers running the light can hit you at any time. Remember, by scanning and recognizing the dangers, we reduce the number of hazards we face. Increasing our following distance is another good way to reduce the hazards. If we drive right off the back bumper of the car ahead of us, we are at the mercy of their driving skills. If they stop unexpectedly because they spilled their coffee, or a dog ran into the street, or they stopped because the car in front of them stopped, we would hit them. This is common in multi-car pileups. Eliminate as many hazards as you can by maintaining a 4-second following distance, and increase the following time as your speed increases or road conditions change. We can also eliminate hazards by scanning for activity near the road, such as pedestrians, parked vehicles, trees, bushes, or other objects that may hide hazards such as children or animals. If you travel in the outside lane near the curb, you have very little time to react to hazards that may pop out into your path. If you travel in the inside lane, nearest the oncoming traffic, you have even less time to react to a vehicle coming into your lane. An oncoming distracted driver only needs to move over a few feet to cause a fatality. By recognizing these hazards in advance, you're able to plan a safer travel path with more time to react if needed. You should never be involved in a collision where you didn't see the other driver, or you assume the other driver would do something else. Scan and recognize the hazards. So now we're scanning with our eyes and recognizing the hazards we come across. We follow the basic rules of driving, which helps us to eliminate as many hazards as possible. Every time we change lanes or slow down, we're reacting to hazards. That's being a safe driver. But sometimes we must deal with hazards that require a more evasive action. There are a few things, though, that we can do before we get to that point. Simple communication in traffic, such as tapping the horn or flashing the lights, may awaken a distracted driver. No driver wants to have an auto accident. The friendliest method is usually the best. If we need to change our path quickly, we have several options. The first option should always be slowing or stopping. Reduce your speed as quickly as possible. Changing lanes is also an option. Because we constantly check our mirrors and know about the traffic behind us, we're able to move into an open space in an adjacent lane. Scanning for hazards also gives us the ability to move off the road into a clear area if needed in an emergency. But keep in mind, hitting a fixed object like a tree will cause severe injuries, and hitting oncoming traffic can be deadly. With any option taken, the consequences of that action should run through your mind before you make the move. You can do that if you pay attention. You will never be surprised if you recognize hazards in advance and plan your reactions should that hazard do what you're hoping they won't do, that is, move into your travel path. But you're ready. You know what you're going to do in any given situation.
Hazard recognition is based on your eye movement, which makes you think, plan, and possibly react. Your constant scanning with your eyes would pick up that you're approaching a crosswalk in which your view would be blocked. You know that a person could be walking across the street and you won't see them until it's too late. You plan to slow, look, and stop if needed. That's the concept of hazard recognition. Scan, recognize, and react.
To keep track of what's happening around you at all times, you must constantly shift your eyes to different hazards, because if you don't see the hazard, you won't avoid the accident. Then you must be able to recognize the danger in each hazard and how it can affect you. Will it cross your travel path? Should you slow, stop, or move over? With that knowledge, you can plan your reaction.
Hazard recognition begins with scanning. To keep track of what is happening around me at all times, I must constantly shift my eyes to different hazards, because if I don't see the hazard, I won't avoid the accident. Then I must be able to recognize the danger in each hazard and how it can affect me. Will it cross my travel path? Should I slow, stop, or move over? With that knowledge, I plan my reaction. To ensure that eye movement is taking place, I'll verbalize the most important hazards. I'll keep shifting my eyes to each hazard and think about what I'd do if that hazard crossed into my travel path. Where will I go? What evasive action will I take? And I'll start with the car behind me that's following too closely. I have the pickup moving on ahead on my left, but I have another car moving in behind them. Now with that car on my left, I can't move that way if something happens on my right. The left lane's clear after them. With their blinker on, I see the car moving over. I need to back off. They hit their stoplights. I need to slow down. What are they doing? I'm moving over to get away from the pedestrians on the curb. Children are unpredictable, and I'll watch the pickup since they probably didn't see me move over. The light's green, but I'm ready for it to change. I clear left, right, and left again and proceed on through. Then I check my mirrors to see if anything has changed behind me. I have that SUV over on my right, and if that pickup pulls out on the right, they may force the SUV into me. I'm watching the cars up ahead, in the middle, and at the right intersection. I've got a car turning left in front of me. I can move to the right if I need to, behind the SUV. The SUV next to me is slowing because the vehicle in front of them is slowing. I'll keep an eye on that vehicle. They're slowing for some reason. I see that the light up ahead is red, so I start to slow. I'm watching the line of stopped cars to see if any decide to move over into my lane without looking. As I come to a stop, I want to find all of the hazards in this intersection. What's dangerous? I'm watching the car come up from behind. If he's not stopping, I'll pull in front of the car on my right. I'll hesitate as the light changes and check left, right, and left again to clear. Then I'll check my mirrors to see what's changed behind me. I want to watch those parking lots on my right to make sure no one exits across my lane. I'm watching quite a few oncoming vehicles. Even though we're separated by a curbed median, I'm ready if one comes across. With the SUV moving up on my right, my options on where to go are limited. I'm starting to slow for the light and scan for hazards at this intersection. I check to the rear and watch the car behind me as I stop. If I had pulled up and there was a car in front of me at the light, I would have left almost a car length of space between me and that car, at least enough to see all of their back tires. That way, if the driver behind me is not paying attention and hits me in the rear, I won't hit the car in front. Stay alert and keep scanning for hazards. You've got to keep up with changes in your surroundings. Remember that intersection collisions are one of the most serious injury-producing accidents. Think about how many ways you can get hit in this intersection. Vehicles are coming at you from all different directions. I see that the oncoming traffic has a double left turn lane. I don't know if they'll have a green arrow or light. It doesn't matter. Double turns can be very confusing to some drivers, and with a large intersection, some drivers may commit to the turn when it's not clear. I'll keep watching them. I'll also watch the car behind. I'm not sure where they're going. As a light changes, I'll clear the intersection, but my view is blocked on the right, so I hesitate before proceeding to clear my view. Then I'll check my mirrors. I have a van on my right that I can only see by turning my head. I'll keep watching him. I'm approaching a school zone, but the warning sign is not on. I realize that this is an area where children are gathered, and they're very unpredictable, so it wouldn't surprise me to see some cross the street in off hours. Another intersection. I clear left, right, and left again and proceed on through. Then I check my mirrors to see if anything has changed behind me. I notice that the car in the right lane is moving up fast, so I'm keeping an eye on them. With them next to me, my options are limited if I have to take evasive action. I never want to ride in this position for very long. I'm watching that intersection where my view is partially blocked. If I can't see other cars, then they can't see me. And if they're not paying attention, they just might pull out, forcing the car next to me to take evasive action, possibly pushing them into my lane. The car behind me is starting to back off, giving me more space. I also have the pickup moving up. I start to clear my intersection by checking left, right, and left again, and proceed on through. Then I'll check my mirrors. I have the pickup moving up on my right side. I'll follow it through to the front. Then I can move to the right if needed. I think about the hazards when I enter a curve. The road could be blocked, someone could be making a U-turn in my lane, or even pedestrians could be in the road. I don't ever want to be surprised. I want to keep looking around the curve. Intersections and turns are always dangerous, so stay alert to crossing traffic. I keep scanning around the curve. I want to be able to recognize any hazards in advance so that I have as much time as possible to react. As I come to a stop, I'll leave a space in front of my car in case I get hit in the rear or if the vehicle in front rolls back as they start up. I notice the pedestrians walking toward where I'm turning left on the other side of the bridge. I need to watch for them as I get closer. I'm watching the truck slowing as it approaches from behind. As the light changes, I'll hesitate, clear the intersection, and allow the car in front to move out. That way I establish my initial following distance. Even though I'm in the only left turn lane, I'll watch the pickup on my right in case they move over wanting to turn left. I can now see that the pedestrians are not a hazard. I clear to the right. I scan my exit path to make sure it's clear, and I watch the oncoming vehicles as I turn. Then I'm ready for any merging traffic in the right lane. I'll check to the rear one more time, and I'll start planning my merge onto the highway. As I enter this highway, I'll turn on my blinker, search for open spaces in the closest lane where I can merge, and get up to highway speeds. I'll verify that no one else is moving into the same lane by checking my mirrors and turning my head to clear my path. Then I'll move over and establish my following distance. As I enter, I'm already aware of the large truck on my left that's moving faster than I am. I'll just maintain my lane since I know he'll pass me. By checking my mirrors, I know I can slow or move to the right if needed. I see the brake lights on the SUV in front of the truck. If the truck doesn't stop in time, I'll need to move over. I slow until I know what's going on up ahead. The slower moving car in front of the SUV has now moved over into my lane. I'm watching the car in front of me. I know that the road splits up ahead, so I start planning my lane change. I'll turn on my blinker and search for open spaces in the closest lane. I have a van next to me right now, so I'm looking behind the van. At the same time, I make sure that I keep scanning out front at the different hazards. I'm also watching the car coming up from behind. The pickup on my left is changing lanes, so I have a perfect opportunity to move over. I check my mirrors and turn my head to clear my path. I still watch the pickup since he didn't leave much space with the car in front. If that car slows unexpectedly, the pickup may come back. Now I make sure that I establish a good following distance. I'm watching the truck on my left. I have a car following closely behind me. I'm doing the speed limit and I have a good following distance out front, but I have a van moving up fast on my right. Once the van passes, I can move to the right if needed. Moving left would only get me into more traffic. And I have another truck moving up on my left. I have that truck on my left now, but I've been checking my mirrors and I know that I can move to the right if he comes over into my lane. I don't have much space, but I could slow if needed. Always have an out. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you're at the mercy of another driver. Always know what you'll do before it happens. The truck just hit their brakes, so I'll cover my brakes until I know why. Is there a problem up ahead? I don't see a hazard, so I'll just maintain my good following distance. I check to the rear and I see the red truck moving up on my left. I have plenty of room out front and to my right if needed. I know that the road splits ahead, so I want to stay in this lane. I don't want to make any last-minute lane changes. It's too dangerous. And with the truck on my left, I'll also maintain my speed. Even though the left lane's backing up, I've got space in front and to the right. I have a work zone ahead at the highway split. I need to be ready for pedestrians as well as confused drivers. I'm still watching the truck on my left and the car that's following closely behind him. Where's he going? I have a good following distance, but my visibility is somewhat limited due to all of the trucks. I was able to move to the right, but now I have another truck moving up, and the car on my left has moved in right behind me, so I can move left if needed. The truck just hit their brakes, probably due to the car squeezing in ahead of him. Vehicles are starting to change lanes for the split. The truck on my right is speeding up. He may want to move over, so I'll slow to make it easier. The car behind me is moving right, so as the truck pulls in front, I back off to establish my following distance. Both lanes are slowing, and that car is now on my right. With the split approaching and a work zone getting closer to my lane, I slow faster and back off even more. I need more space. I will keep backing off until I get a good following distance. My goal in hazard recognition driving is to never be involved in an accident. I'll keep scanning for hazards. I'll recognize the danger in each hazard, and I'll react to that danger before it becomes a problem. Remember, scan, recognize, and react.
Now you know the basics of hazard recognition driving. Scan, recognize, and react. It sounds simple, but it's not. It's hard work to stay focused. Watching the on-road portion one time will make you a better driver, but I would recommend watching the scenes, practicing on-road from the passenger seat about what we've discussed, and watching it again and again for confirmation. Until you're able to see the same hazards as recognized in each segment, you need to keep moving your eyes.
Most teens consider themselves to be safe drivers, even though they tell you that they speed and multitask all the time while behind the wheel. Their definition comes from the fact that they've never had an accident. That's a bad definition. And even after they've had their first accident, they still consider themselves to be safe drivers. But safe drivers don't have accidents.
As a teen, you are not invincible. Confidence is great, but you may get killed or terribly injured while driving. And you need to realize, as the driver, you're more likely to hurt or kill someone else. Don't think that most teen accidents are alcohol-related. They're not. Only about 25% are. The rest are the result of distractions and poor driving skills. But you can be different. Develop those physical driving skills that will keep you, your family, and your friends safe for the rest of your life. Be that driver that everyone trusts behind the wheel. Remember, you have to practice. Practice scanning with your eyes, recognizing hazards, and thinking about your reactions. Scan, recognize, and react.
Would you invest 2 seconds to save your life? 2 seconds. That's about how long it takes to fasten your seatbelt. Believe it or not, if you're not a safe driver, you will be involved in several automobile crashes during your life. Seatbelts are the single most effective means of reducing deaths and injuries in an auto crash. Teens buckle up far less frequently than adults do. Despite efforts aimed at increasing seatbelt use, observed seatbelt use among teens and young adults is the lowest of any age group. In fact, the majority of young people 16 to 20 years old involved in fatal motor vehicle crashes are unbuckled.
Statistics show that it is much safer if you are not thrown from your vehicle. Seatbelts keep you in your seat and stop you from being thrown through the doors or the windows. Seatbelts also keep you from being tossed around the interior and injuring yourself or the other passengers. It takes just one unbelted passenger to seriously injure the other passengers in your car. Seatbelts don't eliminate auto crashes, but when they are worn properly, they can reduce injuries and fatalities. Of course, your goal is to be a safe driver and not have accidents. Scan with your eyes, recognize the hazards that could cross your travel path, and react to those hazards appropriately. You can be a safe driver and never be involved in an accident, but don't take chances. Buckle up. It just takes 2 seconds.